Hi, beautiful friends. Welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. If you're new to this channel, then welcome. My name is Jessica Espinoza, and I'm a health coach, certified yoga instructor, and I talk about a whole bunch of different stuff from real food and natural living to healing your relationship with food and body, and then most recently, lots of pregnancy and motherhood stuff because I am actually have just entered my third trimester with my first pregnancy. And so, to be honest, babies and all things pregnancy has kind of been at the top of my list for the last like 7.5 months. So yeah, so you'll be seeing a lot of content about that, but really I talk about a wide range of topics. So there's a little bit of everything for you here on this channel. So if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I'm so glad that you stopped back by to watch this video. I'm super happy to have you here, so thank you. So this video is actually, I have my list of notes here because let me tell you, this pregnancy brain thing is a real thing. And I have to say that while the pregnancy brain like went away in the second trimester for the most part, I hit third trimester and oh boy, like that mental, emotional, physical fatigue has come back full force. So if I don't write it down or put it as a reminder in my phone or in my calendar, then I just literally will not remember to do it. So I have my list of notes here. So if you see me looking down every so often, then that would be why. So today I'm going to do a second trimester recap. I posted my first trimester recap back in, I believe, November. And I did a video for that as well. And some people found that they actually preferred to watch the video over reading the blog post. And vice versa. So I like to do a little bit of something for everybody. So if you want more expanded detail on anything that I talk about in this video, make sure you check out my full blog post. I'll link to that down in the video description below, or it'll be up here in one of the cards as well, where you can click through and read that. Because I ended up writing, it was not my intention to write a super long blog post again, like my first trimester recap, but once I started writing, I just like everything just came out and I had so much I wanted to share. So there'll be a lot more expanded detail and like all of the links and pictures of the products that I could not live without and things that I just couldn't live without during the second trimester. So all of that will be in that blog post over on the Delicious Obsessions blog. So link down below to that. So I have to say, if you watched my first trimester video or read that blog post, you know that my first trimester was a little bit tough. I had a lot of anxiety. We had some stuff happen with the first practice that we were at, the first doctor. I won't go into a lot of detail here. I talked about that in the blog post for that one, but let's just say the first trimester was a little bit rough on the food front. So essentially physically, mentally, and spiritually, first trimester kind of did me in. But I am happy to say that once I entered the second trimester, things really started to settle down. I started to feel like I was making a lot of spiritual growth. I felt like my emotional health was getting a little bit more stable. That could have been like maybe my hormones regulating a little bit better. I got through kind of that initial like trauma and the anxiety, like the residual effects of the panic attacks that I had back in October. Regarding all of the issues with that first practice that we were with. All of that kind of resolved by the time I got into the second trimester. And really, I feel like the second trimester went pretty well. I still had a lot of food aversions. To be honest, even now as I record this, I'm almost to week 30 and I'm still having food aversions. I think that's just going to last for the duration of the pregnancy. And I have to say, like, I'm really excited for baby to get here so that maybe I can start to eat a little bit more normally because eating has been a little bit of a challenge for me. So I have been really good about making sure that I am eating and that I'm not just kind of like just because I don't want to eat or just because I'm feeling an aversion towards food in general, that I'm still getting enough nutrition in every day, especially being in my second and third trimester where baby is really doing a lot of development, packing on pounds and stuff like that. It's super important. So I've really had to work hard at making sure that I'm keeping my food intake up enough every day. But it definitely has been challenging. So the food aversions, I've had aversions to almost everything at one point, but it's really been mostly around meat and animal products. And so I'm one of those people who I feel my best and I function my best when I'm having some sort of animal protein with each meal. So that kind of threw me for a loop, and it was really tough in the first trimester. It slowly got better in the second trimester. Between weeks like 14 and 20, I was still dealing with a lot of the aversions, but really from 20 weeks on, things kind of like subsided and got better. And I was able to start eating more animal protein. I was able to start eating just a bigger variety of foods in general. So that was really nice. But some days are easier than others. Some days I really just don't want to eat. And then some days I am really, really hungry and I don't have any problem eating all the things. So that has been quite the experience, really. I mean, so much of what I've experienced during this pregnancy has been really like cause to stop and reflect on just how crazy the pregnancy journey is and how different every woman is. Like, we have so many similarities in our journey, but really there's a lot of differences too, and we just never know how our body's going to react to pregnancy and all of that until we're in the thick of it. So I really just chalk this all up to being a life-altering journey. So energy levels definitely got better in the second trimester. First trimester, it was like, I was so tired all the time, and it was a level of fatigue that I had never experienced before. And you're talking to somebody who has dealt with chronic fatigue syndrome in the past, so I know what it's like to be super tired, but this was like on a whole different level. But once I got into the second trimester, my energy started to come back. I started to feel better physically, started to have a little bit more stamina. I was able to exercise a little bit more. I just felt like I had even more stamina to get stuff done during the day. First trimester, I really had a hard time working at all. Second trimester, I was able to actually start working again and like feeling like I was being more productive than I had been. So that was really awesome. It was a welcome reprieve. Although I have to say, like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I hit third trimester at week 28, and it was like that fatigue and stuff just came back overnight. So I'll talk about that in my third trimester recap whenever I do that. Belly changes. So first trimester, never really noticed any difference in my the changes in my belly. Like, I wasn't showing. So it felt kind of hard to get really connected to baby at that point because you couldn't really like physically see anything. And honestly, you couldn't really physically feel anything either. Then around week 15, my husband said that he started noticing a difference in my belly, but honestly, it wasn't until like week 20 that I really felt like I was pregnant. And I remember walking past the mirror in my bathroom and looking at myself from the side and going, whoa, like, look at that belly. Like, because when I would look down at myself, I would feel like my belly just still looked like the same size that it had always been. Like, I couldn't notice any changes. But then when I looked at myself from the side, I recognized how much my body had changed. So that was kind of cool, and it was exciting. And I feel like it was kind of a turning point for me and really starting to connect with the baby that is growing in my belly. And so I was excited to actually start showing. And so now, like, of course, I'm super showing at this point. And it's been fun. It's been quite the journey. I'm going to do some more content about kind of like the whole body image thing, because, you know, you're talking to someone who's personally struggled with body image, you know, for the bulk of their life, really up into my 30s. I was dealing with body image struggles, and it wasn't until like my mid 30s when I really started to like heal that aspect. And so it's been interesting to kind of go through this process of seeing your body change when you have a history of body image struggles. So I'll be doing more content about that in the future. So I have to mention this, and I'm like, it feels kind of like conceited to say, but so many people started talking to me or mentioning that I was glowing, and we all say that to pregnant women, right? Like, pregnant women do get this glow about them. And so the first and primary reason that pregnant women are glowing is because our body is producing so much more blood. Pregnant women on average create 50% more blood volume than they do when they're not pregnant. So if you think about that, that is a lot of blood that is circulating through our body. And so that really like contributes to them having that kind of glow about them. So the extra blood definitely is one of the primary reasons. But I have to say, like, the other thing that I attribute it to is Beauty Counter's cleansing balm. I loved this product before I got pregnant, but after I got pregnant, my skin totally changed. I was starting to get really dry, patchy places on my cheeks. I still have a tiny little bit right there. My skin just all over my body got super, super dry. I normally have a lot of dry skin in the fall and winter months anyways, but this was dryness on a whole new level. And I actually have a whole section about that in my second trimester recap blog post because it was such a big issue for me. So I actually started using the cleansing balm almost every single night on my face. And I always knew that it made my skin feel really glowy and dewy the next day, but using it consistently has really helped just to improve the skin, like the texture and the tone and the feeling of my skin anyways. So whenever people talk about the glow, I always chalk it up to one, I've got a lot more blood circulating in this face and in this body, and then the cleansing balm, because I really think this is like totally been a game changer for my pregnant skin. So I just have to laugh about that. Sleep disruption. That was another huge symptom. So that was a big symptom from the first trimester. So my sleep got disrupted almost immediately after I got pregnant. I started, having to pee more during the night. I just started just not sleeping well in general. And if you have been following me for any amount of time, you know that I am highly protective of my sleep. I really don't function well if I'm not getting enough sleep. So the sleep disruption has been difficult because it has lasted the entire time. But then the second trimester, like around week 24-ish, I was not only having the normal sleep disruption, which just was like having to pee a lot during the night, couldn't really get comfortable as my belly expanded. But then I started having leg cramps and heartburn, really horrible heartburn. Usually in the middle of the night, like 1 or 2 a.m., I would just get like this horrible burning feeling in my stomach. So those were two new things that kind of disrupted my sleep. And then I also had some insomnia. Usually my insomnia would hit me between 1 and 3 a.m. And so I'd kind of be awake during that time frame anyways. And so that has been a little bit frustrating to navigate. But honestly, I have to say, I don't feel as bad physically as I would expect, having missed as much good night's sleep as I have. So I do think that being pregnant is it's compensating elsewhere during the day for me, because I'm not getting enough rest. I know that I don't feel super rested and restored and rejuvenated every morning, but I really have not felt as bad as I expected myself to feel. So I talk about in the blog post the things that have kind of helped with the heartburn and the leg cramps, but I will say with the leg cramps, the two biggest things or three biggest things I think that have helped most is I started taking a homeopathic cell salt formula, and it was the number 8. I can't remember now what all was in it, but it was recommended by a colleague. And then I started using my transdermal magnesium again. If you've heard me talk about transdermal magnesium, you know that stuff's pretty awesome, and I had completely forgotten to use it. So I'm using that on my legs. But I think the biggest game changer as far as the leg cramps go was starting to wear compression socks. I started wearing compression socks and the leg cramps literally went away. So I talk about that more in the blog post, but I would say if you're suffering from pregnancy leg cramps, think about trying compression socks and see if they help you, because they were a total game changer for me. The other sucky thing, second trimester, was that I got sick twice with whatever this respiratory cold crap is that's going around. I got sick right after Thanksgiving. It took me about 3 weeks to get over it that time. And then I got sick again in January, and it took me another 3 weeks to get over it. It was the same thing that I had in December, right after Thanksgiving. And being sick sucks in general. Nobody wants to be sick, but when you're pregnant and sick, it sucks even more. And I think one of the hardest things for me, I was super whiny when I was sick, and I was just feeling really sorry for myself. But I think one of the toughest things is that I can't use all of the normal cold and flu remedies that I normally do. So I have a lot of immune boosters and things that I would take whenever I would start to feel a little bit unwell that would normally kick a cold in the rear. I would never really have a cold that stayed for any amount of time. But most of what I use is not safe when I'm pregnant. So I was really limited on the stuff that I could use. I do talk about a few of the remedies that I use that are pregnancy safe. That's in the blog post. Yeah, that was probably the hardest thing about getting sick twice, is that I just kind of had to like limp through it with the remedies that I could use, and nothing really went in there and like kicked it really fast. So I actually did a video all about my cold and flu medicine cabinet. So I'll link to that down in the video description. I'll throw it in a card up here too if you're curious. So if you're not pregnant, that has a lot of great ideas in it for immune boosters and things that have worked really well for me for kicking stuff in the butt right when I feel like I'm starting to get sick. But unfortunately, I can't use like 90% of that stuff. So, oh well. So pregnancy automatically suppresses your immune system somewhat. And since I had autoimmune issues anyways, I feel like my immune system was suppressed a little bit more than maybe an average pregnant woman's would be. So I think that I'm just a little bit more susceptible to getting sick. So at this point, I almost feel like I am going to become a hermit until baby comes in April, because I just don't want to get sick in it again. And I don't want to catch something that's even worse than whatever this cold, like upper respiratory stuff was. So I'm thinking about, yeah, just being a hermit for the next like 2 months. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see, baby movement. This was really exciting. So I talked about changes in my belly and how that really like kind of transformed how I was feeling, and how I was able to connect with the baby. Because I had felt kind of disconnected from him up until that point. But then, let's see, I wrote it down. So at week 19, I actually started feeling the flutters. So that's what pregnant women will say. That's how they describe that first initial feeling when you feel the baby move. It's like a flutter. And then at week 21, I felt my first real movement, and that was super exciting. And so the best way that I can describe how it felt, I really thought that I had imagined it at first, but then I called my mom and she told me that how I described it was exactly spot on. So I'm pretty confident that that's what I was actually feeling. But the way that I can describe it is it felt like somebody flicked the inside of my belly just ever so gently, just a little tiny flick. And it was so different from anything else that I had felt up until that point that I just know that it was him kicking, so, or moving or whatever. But that was really kind of a pivotal moment. And then from there, the movements got bigger and stronger, and eventually we're able to see the movement actually on the outside of my belly. My husband was finally able to feel the movement on the outside of my belly, which was a really sweet, intimate moment for us that left both of us in tears, because he had been waiting anxiously to feel some sort of connection to the pregnancy as well. Not that he didn't feel connected, but he just wanted, like, I'm connected to this baby all day, every day, and he just wanted to be able to feel something. And so for him to actually feel baby boy move, that was a really, really pivotal moment. So I'll never forget that moment. That's one thing that's like totally etched in my brain at this point. Okay, mental and emotional health. Much better. I talked about this a lot in my first trimester post, and I talk about it in a big section in my second trimester post, but my mental and emotional health was a lot better the second trimester. I felt, excuse me, I felt a lot more grounded. Still dealing with some residual congestion from that cold last month. I felt a lot more grounded and a lot more kind of at peace from where I was at. 'Cause first trimester it felt really chaotic and kind of traumatic. Second trimester, I was able to like feel more grounded, focused, centered, and just like okay with accepting the journey and being okay with the uncertainty of pregnancy. Because if there's one thing that I've learned with pregnancy, we cannot control how our body is going to respond. We can do our best to control what we can, like what we're eating and how we're moving and what we're thinking, but there's a lot of stuff that's out of our control when it comes to pregnancy. And so that's been a really big lesson and a learning experience for me. So I feel like second trimester was just a lot more chill. I spent a lot of time in prayer and Bible study and meditation. I feel like God is using this pregnancy to teach me some really big lessons. And I'll be talking about that more in separate blog posts and maybe some videos too. But I have learned more during this time of being pregnant, I feel like, about myself and about God and about my relationship with God than I ever have any other point in my life. And so I really have to say, like, I'm really thankful for everything that I've learned in the second trimester, and I'm thankful for how, like, good it's been. And I'm thankful for that kind of reprieve, with first trimester being really hard emotionally and physically, and then kind of getting that reprieve before we head into third trimester, when, we're really getting into the final stretch and the nitty gritty of things. And so it was really nice to have that time to just get really grounded and centered and focused. So if you want to know more about my mental health journey and some of the stuff that I have been going through with pregnancy, check out the full blog post for more information on that. Only a couple more things because our video is already like super long. I cannot for the life of me make short videos, it seems like. So exercise and movement, really nothing changed on that front. I was still walking every day, still doing yoga or stretching, and I was able to add in some weight training. So I really didn't do a whole lot of weight training first trimester because I just didn't have the energy and the stamina for it. Even though I had been doing weight training prior to becoming pregnant, I just was so tired. I just couldn't do it. But second trimester, when my energy started recovering, I actually started being able to do some strength training again, which I was really happy about because I love strength training. But I decided to forego the kettlebells and the weights like I normally was doing prior to being pregnant. And I actually bought some exercise bands, and I love them. So I got a couple different kinds, and I actually want to get, there's a couple other kinds that I want to get too because now I'm kind of addicted. But the first type I got is just this regular old exercise band that I think most of us, resistance band, that most of us are familiar with. And then I got, whoops, I'm knocking things over here. And then I got these smaller ones. These are good for doing like leg and arm exercises, these smaller looped ones. These were super affordable. I linked to the ones that I got on Amazon. I'll link those down below and in my blog post as well. Super affordable and one of the best investments I've made. I feel like for strength training, I never knew that you could get such an amazing like muscular workout using resistance bands, but I am totally hooked at this point. And it's so low impact. And it's so customizable that I'm able to really like tailor it to how I'm feeling that day and really feel like I'm getting a good strength workout without completely overdoing it. And I feel like my kettlebells would have just been just too much for me. And especially as my belly gets bigger, just not as comfortable. So totally in love with the resistance bands, but still walking, still doing my yoga, still dancing and that kind of stuff, getting that kind of cardio exercise in as well every day. And it's good for my brain and my emotional and mental health too. So supplements, nothing really changed there. I added a couple of things when I started getting the leg cramps. We kind of adjusted my calcium, magnesium, and potassium intake. But to be honest, I don't feel like that really made all up much of a difference. So I think I'm going to probably kind of wean off some of that stuff that my naturopath and I had kind of added in and see how I do, because I honestly think that the compression socks with the magnesium oil, I'm using a magnesium lotion actually on my legs, and then the homeopathic cell salts, I think those have made the biggest impact, with the compression socks being the number one thing. So supplements really didn't change a whole lot from first trimester, but if you missed the first trimester post, I have all of the things that I am taking in the second trimester post as well. And then lastly, books. So I am reading some new books that have been really helpful. And there's a couple that I want to mention that have been really like informational for me and transformational. So the first one is this Redeeming Childbirth by Angie Tolpin. This was recommended by a colleague of mine, and I feel like this book, wow, like it really transformed my relationship with my pregnancy and with God. I'm going to do a separate video or blog post about this because I had so many pivotal like aha moments when I was reading this. But one thing that I really love about this book is that the thing that stood out to me was when Angie said how when we conceive and we become pregnant, God invites us into this really special relationship, this relationship of creation with him. So as our creator, he partners with us in creation. And when I read that, it just really hit me like super deep that like, wow, this really is an honor and it really is a gift. And it just really transformed things. So I'm excited to talk more about this book because it's been so important to me. So if you are a Christian woman and you're pregnant or going to be pregnant or know people who are pregnant, this might be a really awesome book to check out. So I'll leave the link to this down below, but I'm going to talk more about it in the future too, because it's been really important to me. Another book that has been super helpful is The Womanly Art of Breastfeeding. This is by the La Leche League International. I actually borrowed this one from my local La Leche League, and it is super helpful. It is like the Bible of breastfeeding. I'm going to actually buy a copy so I can have it on hand after baby comes, and I've already worked on getting a lactation consultant set up for after baby comes, just in case I run into problems. Fingers crossed that I don't have any issues with breastfeeding, but you know, breastfeeding can be really challenging for new mothers, and having support around that is going to be really important. So I highly recommend that book as well. And then the last book, I have my full list of books in the blog post, but the last one that I've been really loving is the Ina May Gaskin's Guide to Childbirth. And this has a lot of really positive, uplifting information in it. So lots of positive birth stories. I've really had to be careful about what types of birth stories and what types of information and energy I let into my space, because I want to stay really positive around the labor and birth process too, and about pregnancy as well. And so this book has been really, it's got great just information in general, but it's got a lot of really uplifting stories in it too that give pregnant mamas kind of that sense of peace and comfort. So those have been super helpful. All right. That's it for this video. I have so much more that I could talk about, but honestly, who wants to watch an hour-long video? If you have stayed with me until the end, thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. I don't know why I can't record short videos, but maybe with time I will start to get better. So anyways, if you have any questions, leave a comment down below. Feel free to email me, find me on Instagram. I'd love to hear from you. And then make sure you check out the blog post too for any more information if you're curious about that. And then I'll have some other links down in the video description below as well. So I would just love to hear from you though. So leave me a comment, say hi. And if you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up because it's super helpful. And subscribe to my channel if you feel like the content I share here might be helpful for you. Lots more coming slowly. You're gonna have to just be patient because I get all like fired up, but frankly, I just don't have the energy as I've entered this third trimester. So my content might be a little bit slow, but it'll come, it'll get there. So anyways, thanks again for watching. I will talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.